you were who you were, all those things that your mom and daddy said about you. And for the first time in your life, you hear it, that is not who you really are. That is not the substratum of your life. It is not the sum total of who you are. It is not your identity. It's a lie. 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 You're not wicked. You're not evil. You're not a hoe. You're not a liar. You're not a thief. You're not any of those things. You are the divine image of God, fearfully and wonderfully made. You are the manifestation of God in the earth. You are the offspring of the living God. You got streams of revenue locked up inside of you. You got ideas that you haven't even tapped into yet. You got, oh God have mercy, you got ideas and concepts and innovations that are in you that you haven't even tapped into yet. You got the varying streams of revenue within you that will relieve all your frustration, all your stress, all your worry, all your doubt. You just gotta tap in to what's inside of you and begin to create and use the hands that God has given you and begin to create instead of standing like Moses and making the excuses. I should have stutter. He said, look at what I put in your hand. Use the stick that I gave you because that's but untying. And so the universe then has no choice. First attribute of the secret place. The secret place is a place of revelation. It makes you free because it awakens you and makes you consciously aware that everything that you thought was holding you is an illusion. Good evening, everybody. Glad to see that you are on. Thank you so much for coming to share with me on tonight. Good evening. I think tonight's going to be interesting. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be impactful. And I'm excited to talk with you and spend a little time just sharing some information and having a dialogue with those of you who are joining me tonight. Listen, take a few moments, if you will, and just share, if you will. Take a moment and share this broadcast on your page. I need every one of you that's watching me right now to take a moment, and share the broadcast on your page, and then to tag, begin to tag as many people as you can in the comments, as well as those of you who are watching on YouTube Live as well. Please make sure that you share this broadcast and that you are tagging and sharing as well, so that we can help to expand the platform and the number of people that we're able to reach at one time. I'm trying to make an adjustment here. There we go. We'll take that down now. All right. So yeah, do that for me if you will, and we'll be underway here in just a few moments. I have wrestled with how much to share and just how much to talk about tonight in this conversation. I hope you can hear me. I had the microphone way over there somewhere, and I'm telling you, I'm just off to a rocky start tonight. Didn't have my music playing or anything, huh? Okay, let's get things in order here. Okay, but yeah, about just how far to go and how much to share, how deep or how far down the rabbit hole to go. Um, what I want to share with you tonight is a part of a much larger, longer conversation, series of conversations um, that I've had with God about a number of different subjects and different issues, um, and some sustained conversations with God as well as with some other ancestral spirits or souls or old souls, uh, and just gathering and collecting information. Some things were very familiar to me, and I'm sure that if you've been reading some of the posts that I've been making, they've been familiar to you. If you have been following the teaching that I've been doing for a period of time, or maybe just in your own personal life and growth and development, you may have come to the same conclusions. Because one thing is about truth is truth, regardless to whether it flows through me, through you, through God is just the same God that operates, speaks, and expresses itself to, through, and as me is the same God that expresses itself to, through, and as you. And so that universal knowing, that universal knowledge is available to all of us. And so it's not surprising to me at all if you were to come to some of the same conclusions that I've come to, or have been hearing or sensing or just knowing some of the same things that I have been sensing and knowing and hearing as well. And so that's why I said some of it is very common, and then there's some of it that is quite challenging. Um, and those of you who know me know that I have no problem with delving into what most would call controversial issues. Um, but I am cognizant of the fact of just how much and how far to go in one setting to give everyone an opportunity to be able to participate and to digest and to think about um, what we are discussing in this space. Because what is an undeniable fact is that we are in the midst of another great awakening. And I've said this before, and I'm repeating it again. An awakening that's causing people to, number one, begin to ask the right questions. And then number two, to begin to shift their perception and their perspective on God and our relationship with God, um, away from a lot of the old stereotypical religious ideas that have been prominent in society, prominent in religion, not only in the United States, but around the world. It is definite that more and more people are awakening to spirituality, um, that they've always known that there was something, someone much bigger than themselves, that there was something intrinsically supernatural, spiritual, or otherworldly about our existence on this planet or in this plane of consciousness. But now, just now, beginning to have the courage to ask the right questions, to seek out answers, and to be very vocal about those answers, and to take a step back and away from traditions and customs of culture, environment, and religion, and began to really ask the question, why do I believe what I believe? And is what I believed based on anything factual, or is it just fairy tales and stories that I've been told my whole life? And because they were given to me by people who I respect as authority figures, I accepted it even at the expense of my own reasoning, that my own inner intuitive knowing, that part of me that kind of knew something about this wasn't quite right, or it didn't quite sit well with me. But I assumed that I must be wrong, because surely those who are in the positions of authority, as a leader, as a preacher, as a teacher, as a whatever, surely they know more than what I do. Okay. But now we have entered into this place, into this space, I think is a sacred space of growth and evolution and development, where people of every race, creed, color, and religion have began to awaken and muster up the courage to begin to ask those challenging questions, to challenge what they have been told, what they have been taught, what they have always accepted at face value as true, and to really investigate and examine them so that they were able to arrive to a new, a real, rather concrete understanding of what is and what is not. And in doing so, it has created a new, refreshing revolution, reformation uh, within humanity that is bleeding over into every pocket of humanity, whether it is cultural or religious or environmental. This awakening, this conscious awareness, enlightenment, this understanding of what is and what is not, it is causing a dramatic shift in the collective consciousness of society, the collective consciousness of humanity. And while it may feel a little bit like anarchy, it may feel a little chaotic, it may feel a little haphazard and out of control, please understand that this unfolding is happening exactly as it should. Everything is exactly as it should be. Everything may not be exactly as you want it to be, but everything is exactly as it should be. This unfolding, this revealing, this awakening, not only dramatically shifts how we view God, but it changes how we view ourselves. Because you cannot view God through a different lens than what you view yourself. Because you and I and all of humanity are the divine likeness and image of God, are the unique expressions of God in three-dimensional form. So how we view God, how we perceive it, how we understand it, directly corresponds to how we begin to view and see and perceive and understand ourselves. Are y'all understanding what I'm saying? Um, a young lady who used to attend the church that I used to lead there in a city called Fitzgerald, Georgia, posted an article recently, the other day, I think it was, um, that that began to confirm some things scientifically that I had been trying to teach and have been teaching for the past few years. For years, I even did a whole 3-part series on this particular subject, the subject of death, and how we view it and how we have misinterpreted it, and what it really is. And so the scientists are starting to understand that death is an illusion. That soul and spirit departing from this three-dimensional form is not the end of life. It is life taking on new form. It is life reshaping itself and then and eventually refortifying itself and reanimating itself in another form. It is not the end of all things, but because we are essentially at our core energy in motion. Energy cannot be destroyed. It does not end. It is eternal. Yes. And so while it may change its form, it may take on the form of human, a three-dimensional form, or it may convert to a dark matter or dark energy. It will eventually evolve and conform to a different three-dimensional form, depending upon the speed and vibration of its particle makeup. Scientists are just starting to understand it, but I've been trying to teach it and get people to grasp this for years now. For years. It was funny to me that several of the people who used to be a part of the congregation that I led there jumped on that post and was like, well, yeah, you need to say that again. Write that out again. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys clearly weren't listening. I taught this before years ago, a whole 3-part series. The fact that we are a tripart being made up of body, mind, and spirit. And we have always been and will always be a tripart being, not just while we are in this three-dimensional earth or in this plane of consciousness, but in every existence and in every plane and in every dimension. There are those who hypothesize that upon death, the body and the mind are dropped. The body and the mind are not dropped. The body changes form, as even your scriptures teach. It returns to the dust. It changes form, leaving its most dense part behind, but retaining always its outer shell. The mind, not to be confused with the brain. We're not talking about the brain because you don't think with your brain. Your brain is just the three-dimensional physical fleshly mechanism that through which consciousness flows. But you think with your mind, which is a part of the soul. Okay? Your consciousness goes with you, joining with the spirit and this new form of body or energy form, mass of dimension that was once three-dimensional and now returns to its original source, that is the all of everything that we call God, which is spirit or breath or air or energy or life force. So, and we take on that return to that original state or form, but even that is not forever. Although the soul is always given choice, like you chose to enter this three-dimensional plane at the place and time that you did. You selected your parents, you selected the environment, you selected all of the trappings and surroundings of your entrance into this three-dimensional plane in this iteration of life and in every iteration of life that you have experienced in this plane or in other dimensions. And as you exit whatever plane of consciousness that you have existed in, and for the sake of this conversation, we'll talk about this plane of consciousness. The soul takes with it its conscious remembrance. It takes with it its consciousness into that next place or that return to source, and then is given the opportunity to either abide there, remain there for whatever period. And I have been trying to figure out for the longest, is there a certain time period? And there just simply isn't. It is really up to the soul to decide that it wants to re-enter and reanimate itself and enter this plane of consciousness or a different plane of consciousness in another form. And by necessity, listen to what I'm saying, by necessity, it willingly releases most, if not all, of its conscious awareness of all of its being, so that it can have a pure, original, and unique experience in that next iteration of life. Now, of course, there is the residue, what we call flashbacks and deja vu, that we carry from iteration to iteration and life experience to life experience. But the ultimate goal of the soul is to continuously experience unique experiences in form across the multiverse, in varying planes of consciousness, providing the all of everything that is God, Creator, the opportunity to experience itself again and again and again in a multiplicity of unique experiences across the multiverse. Just as every snowflake from a distance looks absolutely the same, and yet upon a close and exacting examination, microscopic examination, you find that every snowflake is absolutely unique. There are no two that are the same, even though from a distance they look the same. The closer proximity you come to them, the more you see their uniqueness. Man, did y'all catch what I just said? And so the same is true, that while you might view different experiences across different iterations or incarnations from a distance, could appear the same, but upon closer examination, they are a unique experience in a unique form, in a unique time, in a unique place, in a unique dimension across the multiverse, with each of us providing God the opportunity to experience and know itself experientially in three-dimensional form. So should you choose to return to this experiencing opportunity that you call earth or life, your divine self will once again separate its true dimensions into what you call a body and spirit. In truth, you are all one. I'm reading part of what the conversation I had with God. In truth, he says, you are all one energy, yet three distinct characteristics. And as you undertake to inhabit a new physical form or body here on earth or across the multiverse, your ethereal body, as some have termed it, lowers its vibration, slows itself from a vibration so rapid that it cannot be seen to a speed that produces mass or matter. This actual matter is the creation of pure thought. It is the work of your mind, your consciousness, your higher self, your higher mind aspect of your three-part being. This matter is a coagulation of millions, billions, and trillions of different energy units into one enormous mass, controlled by the mind or the consciousness of the soul. And so we really are a mastermind, a mass of mind, a mastermind. Okay? And so we enter this three-dimensional plane of consciousness once again. To offer up another unique experience, because the soul's desire is to experience itself, to truly know itself experientially, just as God. Let me say that again, because the soul is the son of God, the daughter of God, the offspring of God. And so the soul seeks to fulfill the desire of God to experience itself in three-dimensional form. And so the soul's ultimate desire, that's why it resists limitation, is to know itself experientially in three-dimensional form, or in whatever form is necessary across the multiverse. To have those experiences. Now, in order, you might be saying, well, okay, well, all of that sounds well and good, but so what? Well, in order to have that kind of limitless, infinite potential and experience, it necessitates that any barriers to experience is removed. That there are no barriers to the lived experience or the experiential knowing that the soul ultimately seeks as a proxy for God, and in it experiencing itself. For is there anything too hard for God? Is there anything God cannot do? Of course not. And if I and you are the divine expression, offspring, or the ethereal isness of God, then by it goes to follow. I lost my word there, but it goes to follow then that there cannot be limitations placed upon our possibilities of experiencing, because in limiting us, God limits itself. So we are released into this three-dimensional experience with our ethereal mind, that is our conscious psyche, knowing, intuitive knowing, to have a experience that takes us from a conceptual knowing, to an experiential knowing. See, when we were created, since we are created in the likeness, image of God, we are God in our essence, at our substratum. Then all that God knows, we know. So all that is to be known is known by us, but it is only known conceptually. In order to know fully, then it has to be experienced. And so God, in its desire to know experientially what it has always known conceptually, then now breathes itself into form, multiple forms all across the multiverse and throughout this earth, so that it might experientially know what it has always known conceptually. And so that we might also know experientially what we have always known conceptual. Are y'all understanding what I'm saying? Please stop me anywhere along the line if I say something that you need me to explain. I got lost there for a minute and wasn't looking at the comments. Let me go over here. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Blessings to you too as well. I always believed that about death, even when I was growing up in the traditional church. Me too. I couldn't verbalize it at the time, but me too. I mean, as in the body changing from death. Yes, yes, yes. Same thing. Me too. Me too. Okay. Did I miss the name of the? My brother's on here. What up? What up? That's my brother, man. That's my brother right there. Okay. So, this is the mind that creates out of the continuing thought of who we are. The ethereal body then catches the thought, so to speak, and lowers the vibration of more energy units, in a sense, crystallizing them, and they become matter, the new matter of you and I. Are you understanding what I'm saying? You and I are quite literally not the same person that we were the last lifetime or even a few years ago. You and I are omniactive, constantly in a state of change, evolution, growth, development, being and becoming at the same time. And all of this is governed by what we hold as our dominant thought and our conscious mind. That is the conduit through which we release energy vibrations into the universe, that the universe then and all of nature is responsible to respond to and align itself with. And it aligns itself with it until it brings forth manifestation. So you see, you never do die. Life as energy is eternal. It never ends. It simply changes form. So you're an immortal. Where do you think all of these comic book writers and stuff get these ideas from about immortals? They're tapping into a higher frequency, and releasing it in form and in bits and pieces that they feel we are ready to swallow. That general society is ready to swallow. But it's a fact that we've been immortal the whole time. You and I are an immortal. It's not, this three-dimensional form is not immortal. But you and I, at our essence, at our being, are immortal. Moving from form to form so we can have multiple unique experiences to know ourselves experientially beyond just the conceptual. Are y'all understanding? Are you following me? Ask questions or give your input. What part, Toya? She said, explain that a little bit more. That last part. What part of the last part? Be specific, please, and I will. Waiting for your comment. That's really not the part of the conversation I was going to get into. because I really want to deal with this whole concept of right and wrong. And I know this is going to be, yes, conceptually and experientially. Because you can know something as a concept and on paper and in your conscious mind and thought, in theory, it is absolutely accurate. It lines up, but you don't fully know it until you experience it. Oh, that's what I'm talking about right now. The part about conceptual knowledge. Yes. Conceptual knowledge is just that. It is a concept. It is an understanding. It is an intrinsic knowing. Okay? Let me use an old churchy term. Let me let me use an old churchy term, an old churchy definition of it. When they used to say all the time, you can say conceptually, God is a healer, but you cannot say experientially, God is a healer if you've never been sick. Sickness then becomes a necessary part of the experiential knowing of God as a healer, or that healing is possible. Are you understanding? So that's the difference between concept and experience. Conceptual knowledge or conceptual knowing, and then experiential knowing. And both are absolutely necessary. Please know they're both, because you cannot have the experience without the conceptual knowing. You have to have the conceptual knowing in order to even be able to ascertain the experiential knowledge, because then you're having an experience that you're unable to even begin to articulate or explain or conceive or understand. So the two are absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Oh, that's a good question. Is conceptual knowledge faith? It is not faith. It is what powers faith. Let's say that again. Let me say that again. The conceptual knowing is not faith, because when you know, you don't need faith. But that conceptual knowing is what powers faith. Faith is the substratum, the essence, the power, the thing that supports our expectation. It is the evidence or the title deed or the irrefutable proof that what we're expecting does exist. Our conceptual knowledge informs our faith. Great question. Yeah, well, you and Bria are asking the same question. She just asked that. I just answered it for both of you. That's a very good question. Very good question. Okay. I'm going to read an excerpt of part of a conversation with God that deals with the whole concept of right and wrong. And let me just say this also. Let me say this for those of you who are watching, especially for some of you who are still hanging on to the vestiges of a particular religious ideology, a particular religious belief, idea, faith, or teaching, or dogma, or whatever it might be. I am not here to try and denigrate, destroy, or speak negatively about your particular. If that's where you are, it's where you are. Listen. Many of the things that you hold, especially if you are a Christian, are the same beliefs, concepts, and ideas that I held for years. I grew up in the Christian church. I was indoctrinated with Christian doctrine, and I accepted at face value much of what the Christian church said. And that is what brought me to where I am today. If I had not had that as a foundation, I probably would not be where I am today. That began my journey and whet my appetite to explore and to know more and more about God, and had no idea at the time that as I was trying to learn more and more about God, I was learning more and more about me. So I said that to say that it's okay if you don't agree with everything that I say. That if it's hard for you to wrap your mind around, hard for you to accept, or you just outright just say, oh, that's nonsense, that's foolishness, that's fine. All I'm asking you to do is to approach it with an open mind and listen, consider it, ask the questions, see if it makes any sense, and then do your own research. Ask questions, get answers, and then question the answers. That's all I'm asking you to do. Okay? So I want to read this little excerpt because it's powerful. And again, I've written so many notes over the past few weeks now until it's just, I've written more in my journals over the last few weeks probably than I have over the last few years. I don't know why I've been getting this avalanche of information at this particular point in our stage and place in my life. I've even asked the question, why now? Why at this moment? Not while I was pastoring and leading congregations, where I would have had access to so many more people and resources. And I'm sure that I'll come to realize why eventually. I just don't know at this point, but I just know right now I'm getting an avalanche of information that's coming all at one time. Okay, hold on. Let me get this question. Would this be line upon line? The teachers that came in the past helps us to understand what we're hearing today, right? Absolutely. 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 All right, so I'm just going to read this verbatim and then we'll discuss on the other end. Here's what it says. And I posted some of this already. Okay. Your idea about right and wrong are just that, ideas. They are the thoughts which form the shape and create the substance of who you are. There would only be one reason to change any of these, only one purpose in making any alterations, if you are not happy with who you are. Only you can know if you are happy. Only you can say if your life, that is my creation, this is my creation, in whom I'm well pleased. If your values serve you, hold them, argue for them, fight to defend them. Your ideas about right and wrong are just that, your ideas. The thing that struck me the most about that statement and further into the conversation where God said to me, right and wrong as you view it is a purely human construct. I know. The experience is all that there is. Right and wrong is a purely human construct. It went on to say that it had absolutely no preference one way or the other. That unlike what we have thought or been taught all our life, that God is somehow sitting on a heavenly throne, manipulating like marionettes and puppets and moving things around on the chessboard, and all of us are dancing to its own music. God said to me that what would be the point of that? What would be the point of all of me being all of you, and then I having to control all of you, which is all of me? What more do you need other than the all of everything? And how will you have the unique experiences that you desire, that I desire, if I am the one controlling your every motion, move, and choice? No, no, I've given you a will. I've given you choice. And I am the observer of the divine expression of me, being me in form and making divine choices. It said, you have always understood and knew me as sovereign. And I have. But it said that what you have failed to understand or know or accept or embrace is that it is impossible for me to be sovereign and you not. Because you are an extension of me. Did you hear what I just said? So that sovereignty extends to you. You can choose to do what you want, when you want, how you want, for as long as you want to have the experience you choose to have in form, providing it the unique experience of itself in three-dimensional form as well. That we choose to limit ourselves as humanity, setting up what we call guidelines or rules of society, creating that whole prism of do's and don'ts and rights and wrongs, which are perfectly fine as long as we understand that they are not absolutes. They are of our own definition. I'll give some examples, some very obvious examples, because I know that that's a little hard concept for most to grasp, okay? But there was a time that society at large, one part of society, thought that it was perfectly right and legal and good for one race to be subjugated to another. That Africans were innately less human than others. They didn't do this just out of maliciousness, evilness, or wickedness. They also did it fully believing they were right, that it was good, that it was logical. And that was an American value. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay? Our concepts and constructs around what is right and wrong has evolved and continues to evolve over time. If any of you are around my age or older and had older parents, you know that, like my parents, when my mother got married, had she gotten married at the age she got married back then, they would have charged my father with statutory rape. Yet it was common, acceptable, right, and good for women to marry at the age of 12, 13, 14 years old. It's just been over a period of a very short period of years that society's perception and view of that has changed. Don't you dare, wait a minute, don't you get self-righteous on me. Don't you, because I'll go right to your Bible and talk about Joseph and Mary. Joseph being in his 30s, Mary being around 14, 15 years old. Where if you take the story of her, of the birth of Jesus, literally, she was impregnated by the Holy Ghost while still a minor. Come on, Holy Ghost sanctified folk. Ikandobosha. She was a minor. So what? Holy Ghost was a statutory rapist? Did God rape Mary? Oh goodness. See, this is why folk get sick of me. That's why folk get sick of me right there. That right there. See? Oh, that's good. Okay. See, okay, we're cross pollinating, but I'm going to answer that, Bree. That's a really good question. She says, I'm still focused on the last conversation. Do we choose to give up the ghost or choose to transition into eternal life form? Is it an automatic transition when we've outlived our physical bodies? And no, it's not a lot. That's a very, okay, it's a very good question. Um, all right, that's probably a good interruption. That'll give people a chance to ruminate and and chew on that last piece that I just said about Mary and God, and how our ideas of right and wrong evolve over time. So I'll shift over and answer your question. And the simple short answer to your question is yes. No death, and you put it in air quotes because it's really not death as we understand it, because we think of death as being final, the end of a thing, when in fact it is not. It is more a transition. No soul makes its transition. Let me rephrase it. No soul is forced into transition. Every soul transitions willingly. Absolutely. It is an absolute choice. It is an absolute will of the soul. The issue comes up is that sometimes, and in some cases, not in all, but in some cases, the soul has made a decision that it's time to depart. It's time to discard this three-dimensional form and return to its original ethereal form and prepare for its next iteration of experience, where the body and the mind are still trying to hold on for whatever reason. the body and mind are still trying to hold on. Usually it's because there is some person or persons or things that they hold dear or value in this three-dimensional form, or that they value the other persons value the life of that one, and will impose upon them their selfish will or desire. You can't leave me, you can't die, we can't be, I'm not ready for you to go. And so while the soul is ready to make its departure, the mind and body are not in agreement. And so it creates this inner turmoil that I believe it produces pain. It's the reason why in many cases, if you've ever noticed that if there's a terminally ill person and they know there are people around who are pulling and tugging on them to stay, when they know that the time of their transition is at hand, that they have made the decision from a soul level to make that transition, they'll say to them, why don't you take a break? Why don't you go home and get some sleep? I'll see you in the morning. Or why don't you go downstairs and get something to eat? Or why don't you go ahead and take Billy to the baseball game? And you go to his game, you go to his basketball game, and I'll be here when you get back, so that they can get them out of the room and they can peacefully make their transition. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. She says, I understand that. I feel this happening with dying patients. That's a great question. Kiwi asks, what about accidents where they say the person died instantly? That, first of all, here's the thing. There are no accidents, incidents, or coincidences. That's the first thing that you have to swallow and deal with. Everything happens exactly as it should. Everything has purpose. The reason that we see them as accidents, incidences, coincidences, or tragedies is because that is the value judgment we have placed upon them. When in fact, they are just another experience that the soul has chosen to have. Remember, you cannot hear. In order for the soul to fully experientially know itself, it has to know itself fully. A life of bliss and happiness, and as we call it, a utopian life, is not a full experience. In order to really know light, there has to be darkness. In order to know joy, there has to be suffering. Are you understanding what I'm saying? That duality is necessary because they are two sides of the same coin. We unfortunately have given these, other sides all of these negative and malevolent titles and names. We've labeled them all of these different things when in fact, when they are not. But the soul is choosing to have an experience, multiple experiences throughout every iteration of life, across the multiverse. I'm trying to see how far to go because, okay, I was allowed to observe as I was learning about soulmates, twin flames, souls that are interconnected and bound together across iterations, across time and space. And I was able to observe souls that chose to experience this three-dimensional form during the same time periods, but in different forms. In one case, where one was the mother, another was the daughter, one was the father, one was the son, one was, a neighbor, one was a friend, so on and so forth. And they have known each other for millennia, across iterations, across experiences. And one of the souls wanted to know or to experience sudden death, and the other soul volunteered to be the one to kill them. And it was a joyous conversation, like very lighthearted, like, what would you you really do that for me? And yes, and giddy about having the experience. From a human perspective, that seems appalling, crazy. Like, are you nuts? Are you a lunatic? But we tend to think of ourselves as human first and spirit second, when in fact it is the reverse. We are spirit, having a human experience, and choosing to have experiences that we in this lived three-dimensional life have labeled traumatic, labeled bad or evil or malevolent. But it is an experience of the soul's own choosing. It is also not done haphazardly, but deliberately, intentionally, with purpose. Because every soul that is involved in the transition or that experience has a part or a role, and it is fulfilling a larger and greater purpose. From the accident, what we call the accident, or the transition of a baby that only lived for 7 days. I know that's heavy. That's a lot to like. But take a moment and think about it. Ask me whatever you need to ask me about it. There's a bunch of questions popping up at the same time. Let me try and go to these and then answer along with the rest of you as well. Okay. Is this kind of what happens with grandma? Once I told her it's okay for her to transition, she took her last breath. Absolutely. Many times they're waiting for you to be prepared to let go. Yes, everything has its purpose. That is absolutely right. Okay. Why are we taught to fear death rather to embrace the triumph? Because we think from a human, three-dimensional perspective. And because we have been taught that death is final. We have been taught that death is final, even though everybody's singing about going to heaven and the streets of gold and the milk and honey and saying starry crown and long white robes and all the other kind of glorious stuff that, that's all fictional. And it is fictional. I mean, come on, think logically for a moment. What the hell does a spirit need with milk and honey? And have you ever tried milk and honey? It's quite nasty. Okay, or a mansion, or a robe, or slippers. Come on, y'all. But we are taught that it's, even with all of that being promised, death is the worst thing that can happen because it's final. They're gone. We have to wait until that great getting up morning to see them again. Yet every single one of you watching me right now, every single one of you have experienced the presence of loved ones, whether in spirit form or in the form of another person that you knew, you instinctively knew this was a soul or a person you had encountered before. Yet you erased and eradicated from your mind because your religion told you, no, that's not possible. No, that junk is that's demonic, that's the devil. But you know it. I don't even have to ask. I know you have. You've had those experiences. John says, transition or departure from our current lives are called exit points. Yes, we write in our life script when at home on the other side. I like that terminology, exit points. Yeah, exit points or transitional stages where we take on a different form. That's really good. Yes. Yes, it is the value system we placed on it, our own connotations. Who told you? That's where I was going with the other about the right and wrong. Who told you you were naked? Yes, spirits having a human experience. When we make those kinds of decisions, people don't understand at the time we make those choices when the formless, when in the formless of the unconditional love. Yes. Yes. I don't know if you've ever done that. I've experienced being at the bedside or with a person who did not want to remain here and yet felt powerless to say so because of so many family members, loved ones that were around. And as soon as they were out of the door, they felt enough confidence within me, trust within me to say to me, I'm so ready to go. I don't want to stay here any longer, but I don't know if they can handle it. But please know that there comes a point where the soul has made up its mind that it's going to leave, it's going to abandon this body, and the mind and body, fight as it may, has to submit to the will of the soul. Okay? Oh, those are good questions. Those are really good questions. I love having these kind of conversations with you. I love having them. Okay? So, yes, it's our value system, our human construct of what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is evil, what is righteous, what is holy, what is unholy, what is demonic, that we came up with didn't come from God, didn't come from, from anywhere in the spirit. It's just something that humanity decided that we would agree upon. And the power of collective consciousness is, man, it is powerful. That's why the scripture even talks about that if 2 or 3 of you can agree upon anything, then you can do, or in the Genesis 11 piece that said, look, and they're all of one mind and of one language. There's nothing they won't be able to do. The power of that collective consciousness, because if you are a divine creator by yourself, you are a manufacturing, creating machine, pumping out, joules of energy that are so forceful that you bring in the manifestation those things that you most desire. Imagine combining your energy along with multiple others, creating a collective consciousness that causes the world to take on a certain shape and form. All of humanity is living in the collective reality of the consciousness of humanity. Woo! Did you hear what I just said? I said all of humanity is living in the reality of the collective consciousness of all of humanity. It's not the devil. There is no devil. It's not a demon or any other kind of hank or anything external. And it's not God. It is us. It is us. During this at one point during our conversation, I asked the question that I have had asked to me so many times whenever I've talked to different people, especially those who are atheists or agnostic. I always get this question, and so I ask it. How can a loving, merciful God allow this, that, or these catastrophes, calamities, and disasters to take place in the earth? Why don't you stop these things from happening? Why don't you just fix all of the world's problems? And God said back to me, said, why don't you? Yes. And he said, I don't mean you individually, but I mean you as the collective, because you are the creators of it. So you can change it whenever you decide to change it. Collectively, humanity, when you decide to change it, when you decide to correct it, you will. But as long as you, as a collective, agree that this will continue, it will continue. And who am I to thwart the will of God? That is, these representatives, expressions of God in the earth. And that when we're ready to stop it, we're ready to have a different experience, we'll create it. And it reminded me of the narrative, the allegory in Genesis, where it says that in 6 days God created, and then on the seventh day, the eternal all of everything rests and turned over everything to its creation. And says, now you rule, you have dominion, you are the one to tend to it. Whatever you name it, whatever you call it, whatever you decide about it, that's what it's going to be. And God went from being the creator to being an observer. Observing itself in form, now governing itself in three-dimensional form. Without barriers, without boundaries, without good or bad or any of those things. In reality, the whole partaking of the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was not an original sin or a downfall. It was Adam's or humanity's awakening. Because it could never fully live and express itself as God without the conscious awareness of the duality that exists in the universe. And so it's really up to us, humanity, to combine the collective consciousness of all of humanity to bring about the kind of enormous ethereal change in this world that we wanted. Do you realize that we could end world hunger tomorrow if we wanted to? but not enough of the world wants to. There's too much profitability in hunger, in famine. We could cure the world's diseases tomorrow, but there's way too much profitability in sickness. They're not trying to cure. The world's not trying to bring about cure. It's trying to generate more capital. And there's more capital in everyone being sick, in there being a huge population of hungry or homeless. We don't want to do away with crime. That's why there's always so much fight against decriminalizing certain things. We don't want to do away with crime, because then we would have to, we lose all the capital associated with the criminal justice system. So don't dare turn around and blame God for all of this. This is our creation. This is our creation. Y'all hear me? Come on. That's tantamount to your 10-year-old going in and ripping his entire room apart and trashing it and throwing everything all around, and then coming out and saying, "Hey, Mommy, why don't you clean up my room?" I can see the look on your face right now. If you don't get your little now. It's not my room, it's yours. You better get it. You tore it up, you better clean it up. Well, who do you suppose tore up the room? Who do you think that messed up the world? Was it God? It was humanity. And now we want the parent to come and clean the room. And it keeps handing us the broom and say, "You created it. You don't like it? Create something else. I've given you the power to do it. Make a different choice. Create something different." The main issue I'm having a problem with is why our souls want to experience being a degenerate, like a murderer or a rapist, a serial killer, a pedophile, just pure evil. Again, you're placing a value judgment based upon human society's perception that has evolved to that point. And come on, let's be honest. Humanity at this point does not think of murder as degenerate. It's just murder under certain circumstances. But now if it's the death penalty, well, that's okay. If it's a cop killing people, well, that's okay. You got the legal right to kill them. If it's stand your ground, that's okay. If it's a war, are y'all hearing what I'm saying? Okay. Our perceptions and ideas of right and wrong have continued to evolve over time. And what we call evil today at one time was, well, in certain aspects, we still consider perfectly acceptable. Were your great-grandparents pedophiles? Because if you grew up in the Black tradition as I did, you know that many of your mamas and grandmamas and great-grandmamas were married when they were 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. But the collective of society has come together now to decide that's unacceptable. And it's evil and it's wicked and it's malevolent and it's. And I use Mary and Jesus and Joseph rather and the birth of Jesus, but you read your Bible, that is a narrative that is repeated all throughout scriptures. From David to Solomon, right on through. So yeah, okay. Those are judgments that we came up with as a society, and they're not bad, and they're not good, and they're not right, and they're not wrong. They are just what we have decided that works for us. And we have collectively agreed to adhere to a certain set of norms. And every now and then there are souls that act outside of those norms we consider an anomaly, or we'll call them a monster. Okay, please understand what I'm saying, because I'm not justifying anything. I'm not placing a value judgment on any of it. I'm just simply helping us to understand that as we evolve over time, we begin to view things differently from a different perspective. The mass murderers, okay, the killings, school shootings, all of these young babies being killed and murdered. Horrific, tragic, heartbreaking. Why would a soul choose to have that experience and other souls choose to experience losing or transitioning out of this life in that manner? To have the experience because they don't view it. Souls don't view it from a system of values, of human values, but purely as an experience. Because when we look at it through the narrow view of human values, then we see the evolution of those values over time. Because if we take the narrative literally, it was God who says to the Israelites, I want you to go into Jericho and kill everybody. It didn't mean just the men of war. It meant the men, the women, the children, the babies, even told them don't leave any of the cattle alive. Kill everything. Everything and everybody. Newborns. If you believe the narrative of Moses and the plagues, then God killed all the firstborn of Egypt. That included babies. God killed them. Just killed them. Well, what had they done? Yes, it does. Beverly, we covered this earlier. If you go back and you'll listen to it on the replay, you'll see it. But yes, it does. Is it possible that some souls are bad entities and they don't exist within the good entities? No. There's no such thing. All souls emanate from God, and there is no bad in God. Bad and good are human constructs. Every soul simply is and is choosing to have an experience in the three-dimensional form or in whatever form is necessary, depending upon the dimension across the multiverse that they're entering. And you cannot have the full experiential knowing or knowledge without every part of it, because otherwise it becomes just conceptual knowledge. We struggle with that. We struggle with that. But every ascended master understands this, arrived at a point where they embraced this and had to walk and live out that and shift their perspective to align with truth, to that truth. We are told in the text in Hebrews that we have not a high priest that cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities. And the reference there is to Jesus the Christ being the high priest, being the ascended master. And it says about him, we don't have him as our high priest who can't relate to our everyday struggle, because he was in every way tempted as we are, yet without error, without missing the mark. And we go, we focus on the hoorah, yet without sin, because we have this warped idea of what sin is. We don't really view it as just error, but we skip over the part of it was tempted in every area as we are. That means every human desire that we could ever experience, if we believe the writing of that text, then it was lived out and experienced in Jesus the Christ. It means that Jesus had the desire to murder, to rape, to kill, to steal. It had the desire for sex with women. He had the desire for sex with women, sex with men, sex with animals, sex with... Tempted in all areas as we are. Every human temptation. And you do understand that temptation, that word temptation involves two things. It involves desire and opportunity. That there has to be a desire and there has to be an opportunity in order for it to be a temptation. If there's no desire, then it's not a temptation. If there's no opportunity, then it's still not a temptation. Temptation requires desire and opportunity. And the text, if you believe that text to be literal, says that Christ then had the desire and opportunity of every human possibility. Huh? We don't like to think like that, but that's it. But that's what the text literally says it. So that means that Jesus was looking at booty too. Jesus wanted to slap the taste out of some folk. Come on. Human values that we've collectively agreed upon. Souls have no such thing. And this might really blow your mind, but in other dimensions and other life forms and life forces, they don't have them either. This is one of the few experiences that exist across the multiverse that has such a collective consciousness surrounded around what we call values as it relates to character. There are other highly evolved beings in other communities and dimensions of existence that have no such limitations. They are far more evolved than we are. That's a whole nother conversation right there. I'm gonna read this to you. This is what God said to him. He said, I have not said your values are wrong, but neither are they right. They are simply judgments, assessments, decisions. For the most part, they are decisions made not by you, but by someone else. Your parents, perhaps, your religion, your teachers, your historians, your politicians. Very few of the judgments and the values that you have incorporated into your truth are judgments you yourself have made based upon your own experiences. Yet, experience is what you came here for. And out of your experiences were you to create yourself. Yet, you have created yourself not out of your experiences, but out of the experiences of others. I want you to take a moment and swallow that one. This is the basis for the whole teaching I did. Many of you who followed me when I was at the church there in Fitzgerald heard me teach. I did 26 teachings on rediscovering your identity. Because our true self has been lost in the sauce, if you will, because we have been living our lives, shaping our values around experiences and character judgments of others, of culture, environment, family, friends, experiences, traumas, rather than arriving to our own authentic truth based upon our own lived experience. And so we're not living out our true self. We are living out the character manufactured by others around us. I'm going to read it again. He said, it said, I have not said your values are wrong, but neither are they right. They are simple judgments, assessments, decisions. For the most part, they are decisions made not by you, but by someone else. Your parents, perhaps, your religion, your teachers, your historians, your politicians. Very few of the value judgments you have incorporated into your truth are judgments of yourself, your experiences. Yet, experience is what you came here for. And out of your experiences were you to create yourself. Instead, you have created yourself out of the experiences of others. And watch this. it went on to say, if there was such a thing as real original sin, that would be it. Did you catch what I hit? Lord have mercy. He said, if there was such a thing as a real original sin, which there isn't, but he says, this would be it, that you allow yourself to become who you are, not because of your experiences, but because you have incorporated the experiences of others and depressed your own authentic self. It said, this is the sin you have committed. All of you. You do not await your own experiences. You accept the experiences of others as gospel. Literally, gospel. And I thought about the Bible because that's what we are reading about, the experiences of others about God, with God. And then we are trying to incorporate their experiences into our life, and without having our own lived experience ourselves. He says, you accept these experiences or the experiences of others as gospel, literally. And then when you encounter the actual experience for the first time, you overlay what you already think you know onto the encounter, polluting the encounter and diluting your own true experience. It went on to say, if you did not do this, you might have a wholly different experience, one that might render you, your original teacher or source, wrong. In most cases, you don't want to make your parents, your school, your religion, your preacher, your bishop, your teacher, your tradition, your scriptures wrong, so you deny your own experience in favor of what you have been told to think. Did you hear what I just said? I don't know at what point we are in the broadcast, but you need to mark it and go back to this part and replay it again and again and again and again and again until that soaks down in you. Because what is most important right now in your growth, this next place of growth and development and evolution, is that you begin to have real, true, authentic experience, void and completely washed of what you have been told the experiences are and what they mean and what they signify, and arrive at your own truth from your own experience. Or as, the old church adage goes that they really don't mean, but it's a truism. Know God for yourself. Truly know God for yourself. Not what the preacher said, not what the missionary said, not what the apostle, the prophet, evangelist, the pastor, or the teacher said, not what the Sunday school teacher said, not what religion said, not what Jesus said, not what Muhammad said, not what Buddha said, but your own lived, real, authentic experience. Know God for yourself. To truly live, not just exist, live your life so you can fully embrace the authenticity of the experiences that you chose and designed for you to have. You are robbing yourself of what you designed, an experience that you designed for yourself to have before you came into this three-dimensional existence. You are robbing yourself of the fullness of the experience by polluting it with the ideology of others. I don't mean to yell, I'm sorry. Y'all know I'm passionate. You know I'm passionate about this. Let me go to the comments because you probably have said a lot of stuff and I just missed it. Let me go back. Okay. We have placed value based on our personal opinions. Yes. And kings having as many women and men. Yeah, they did. They did. Okay. Like Solomon. He said, I know I'm late. Yeah, all right. I already answered that one. Could it be possible that okay, we already talked about that one. In all things, human divine, we just, yes, exactly. We're just choosing not to liberate ourselves. And sometimes it's not consciously making the choice, it's unconsciously because we don't even recognize the bondage we've placed ourselves in. We don't consider it bondage, we consider it good guidance, good counsel. I so hunger and thirst after knowledge that I can stay in this learning space all day and all night. Bless your heart. Me too. I feel the same way though. I'm telling you, that's me. I get so excited about these downloads and these conversations. I'm like, I can't write fast enough to put it all down. Then I want to tell everybody everything. And then I get disappointed when people are not as excited about it as I am. And I know that's silly because it's my experience, and yet I'm wanting everybody else to be just as excited and hyped as I am about it. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. They're not me. I'm not them. Yes, listen to the replay. Listen to the replay, daughter. Let me go. Okay. Yeah. We have the ability to create experiences from the blank. Absolutely. Absolutely. When I say that, say this, people look at me sideways. That's right. Let them look. Let them look at you. That's fine. Live your life. I love that. I love that. But I know exactly what you mean. Believe me, you already know I get called every kind of crazy and cult leader and demonic and witch, warlock, and devil and some of everything. When I told my family and friends, I think for myself, them jokers got mad and left. And that's okay. That's okay. The important thing is that you don't think harshly or bad about them because every one of us have a unique path that we're walking. And because they're not on the same path as you doesn't make them right or wrong. Are you right or wrong? You are right for you. And they are right for them. It's a unique path. Yes. Yes, Chandra, live your life. So I can fully embrace the authenticity I choose and design for myself to have. Yes. That's it. That's it. You chose this life. You chose this life, this time, this space, the environment, the culture, the family you would have. You chose it all. You pulled all of the pieces together to create an experience for yourself in this iteration of life. You didn't just choose this iteration, but every iteration to follow. before the foundations of the world. So don't rob yourself of it by living wrapped in the experiences of others and their own perception. I posted this already. I'm gonna continue the dialogue, but I posted this already. Along those same lines, this is what God said. He says, "Amazingly, you have created this same contradiction around God. Everything your heart experiences about God tells you that God is good. Everything your teachers tell you about God tells you God is bad. Your heart tells you God is to be loved without fear. Your teachers tell you God is to be feared, for he's a vengeful God, an angry God, a consuming fire. You are to live in fear of God's wrath, they say. You are to tremble at his presence, they say. Your whole life, throughout your entire life, you are told to fear the judgment of God. For the Lord is just, they told you. And God knows you will be in trouble when you confront the terrible justice of the Lord. You are told, therefore, to be obedient to God's commands or else. Above all, you are not asked. You are not to ask such logical questions as, if God wanted strict obedience to his laws, why did he create the possibility for us to break the laws in the first place? Your teachers tell you because God wanted you to have free choice. Yet, what kind of choice is free when to choose one thing over another brings condemnation? God Almighty, that listen, he said, what kind of choice is free if to choose one thing over another brings condemnation? How is free will free when it is not your will, but someone else's will, which must be done? Those who teach this would make a hypocrite out of God. You are told that God is forgiving and compassionate, yet you are also told with the same breath, you are told that you need to ask for forgiveness in the right way. And if you do not come to God properly, your plea will not be heard, your cry will go unheeded, and you will be tossed into an eternal flame, damned forever. It said, most of you, therefore, spend the bulk of your adult life searching for the right way to worship, the right way to obey, the right way to serve. The irony is, he said, listen to this now. Listen to this. It said, the irony of all of this is that I don't need or want your worship. I don't need your obedience. It is not necessary for you to serve me. I'm telling you, it rocked me. It rocked me. It said, I'm going to read it again. He says, the irony of all of this is that I don't need your worship. I don't need your obedience. And it is not necessary for you to serve me. These behaviors are the behaviors historically demanded of by the subjects of monarchs, usually egomaniacal, insecure, tyrannical monarchs at that. They are not godly demands in any sense of the word. And it seems remarkable that the world hasn't by now concluded that the demands are counterfeit, having nothing to do with the needs and the desire of deity, because deity has no need. Deity has no need. How could God ever need anything? Because if God had need, it wouldn't be God. Listen, it gets deeper. All that is exactly that. All that is exactly that. All that is. If therefore wants or lacks and nothing, it therefore wants, lacks, or needs nothing by definition. The all there is exactly that. All there is. It wants, needs, lacks nothing. If you choose to believe in a God who somehow needs something and has such hurt feelings that if it doesn't get what it needs, it's going to punish those to whom it expects to receive it, then you have chosen to believe in a God much smaller than I. You are truly children of a lesser God and not my children. No, it said, no. My children, please let me assure you again and again that I am. And because I am without need, want, or lack. I require nothing. I'm going to let that just sink in. I'm going to let that sink in. It should make logical lights ought to be going off in your head right about now. I know it did in mine. God is looking for somebody. God needs somebody. God is wanting somebody to. How does God have a need, a lack, a want? Deity has no need because it is the all of everything. And the all of everything is exactly that, the all of everything. So it lacks, wants, needs nothing. Now, if you can wrap your brain around that, embrace that level of truth about God, the all of everything, then you have to then carry over and embrace it about you, because you and I are the divine, unique expression of the all of everything. And if it has no need, then we have no need, lack, want. It doesn't need to be worshiped or served. We don't need to be worshiped or served. Okay, I'll use different words. Accepted and loved and praised and admonished and appreciated. All of those things are human constructs that we have been taught are necessary for our happiness. But happiness is a choice. I'm happy with me. Your praise, love, acceptance is extra. It's not a necessity. Man, are y'all, woo, I'm telling you this, I about flipped over the sofa, writing some of this stuff down. Just like, oh my goodness. And I promise you, this is not even 1/10 of it all. This is just what I'm sharing with you tonight. Good night. Been on here almost 2 hours. I'm getting ready to end, Kiwi. I'm getting ready to end. We're gonna all get off. I know that's right. I about flipped my sofa over. Woo! I'm telling you. And there's so much more. I'm gonna share more with you. Maybe I'll come back. No, I won't be on tomorrow. I got to take a flight in the morning. So maybe Thursday or Friday I'll be back on, and we'll continue the conversation. Woo! We'll continue the conversation because I promise you, there's so much more, revolutionary understanding, insight. No, not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Toy. I got to catch a flight in the morning. So maybe Thursday or Friday. Okay. Maybe Thursday and Friday. I don't know. We'll see. But I know it won't be tomorrow. Yes. Take some time to digest. Go back and listen to the replay again and again. Take notes. And I'm encouraging you, every one of you. Okay? I enjoy this. I'm having a grand time. I'm happy to share this information with you, this experience with you. But have your own experience. Have your own conversations with God. I'm nobody special, but I am special. You see what I mean? And so are you. And the same access granted to me is the same access granted to you. Have your own conversations with God. Everyone that asks receives, everyone that seeks finds, everyone that knocks the door is open to. Okay? Same essence, the all of everything, God, Spirit, that resides and resonates within me also does in you, through you, as you, with you always. So definitely seek to have your own experiences. You know how. I've given you the 5 keys. I've given you those keys: prayer, meditation, and study, and fasting, and I've given them to you. Y'all know. Giving, loving. So employ and exercise those keys in your life consistently, and watch the gates and doors and windows open up. Watch the experiences just begin to flow out. And your entire perspective on life shifts dramatically, and your experiences change. Okay? Any other questions before I jump off? Questions or comments? This is a really robust conversation. When y'all know I normally stop after an hour. Gloria will be happy. I went for 2 hours tonight, Gloria. 2 whole hours. She's always telling me to go 2 hours. Well, I went 2 hours tonight. I did. I want to encourage you and give you the opportunity to sow tonight. If you have benefited from, appreciate, enjoyed this conversation, the information being shared with you, and you like to demonstrate that gratitude, your appreciation of it, then please take an opportunity and take advantage of this opportunity to give and to sow and to demonstrate your love and appreciation and support for the work that we're doing by sowing your seed, giving using our Cashapp or Zelle or PayPal. And I appreciate whatever you give, whether it's $10,000 or 25 cents. I appreciate it. I receive it with gratitude and love. I am grateful for your loving support. And even if it's nothing, and all you do is just continue to show up and participate, that's okay too. But those of you who can and choose to, take advantage of the opportunity to give and to sow and support the work that we're doing so we can continue to build and expand upon it. Thank all of you. Let your thoughts and prayers go with me in the morning as I board the plane and take off and on another journey to have a different experience. I'll be flying out first thing in the morning. So I appreciate your thoughts and your prayers. Let's all collectively, continuously pray for each other. I don't normally pray before I go off the air, but tonight I just feel the unction to do so. So those of you who'd like to join me, you can. You can bow your head, close your eyes. You can sit with your eyes open. You can stand up and walk around, lay down, sit down, kneel, however you feel comfortable. Or you can just sit there and listen. You don't have to do anything. Or you can turn off if you just like, I ain't into all that prayer stuff. That's fine too. Okay, but those of you who'd like to join me, you can. Eternal God, the all of everything creator and maker, all that is, that was, and is to come, thank you. Thank you for so liberally sharing and giving, allowing us and teaching us to pull back the covers and blinders and all of the encumbrances that has kept us from accessing the knowing, the intrinsic knowing that we've had from the foundations of the world. We ask for your guidance and your grace as we continue our life journey. Help us to develop and embrace and live in the courage it takes to evolve and grow, to be and become. Help us to walk in the truest form of your being, which is love, which happens to also be the truest form of our being. To cast aside all fear, doubt, malice, bitterness, or anger, and to walk in unconditional, purest love. And in doing so, we experience the glory of you. Amen. Amen Ra. Amen. All right. You guys have a wonderful night, and we'll talk again really, really soon.
Thank you for tuning in. And be sure to catch us every Sunday at 7 p.m. for empowerment.
That we are unique.
Every Thursday at 7 p.m. for momentum.
The creation of God and the God who created him.
Once again, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. And we'll see you next time.